Money does not move in response to panic, force, or relentless pursuit. It responds to something far subtler, the quality of consciousness from which action arises. When the mind is restless, filled with fear of lack or urgency to possess, that very agitation becomes a barrier. One may work tirelessly, yet feel as though every step forward is met with invisible resistance. This is because money, being a form of energy, follows the same law as all energy. It flows toward harmony, not tension. Observe how nature behaves. A river does not hurry, yet it reaches the ocean. A tree does not strain to grow, yet it stands tall and abundant with fruit. In the same way, wealth responds not to frantic chasing but to inner stability. When consciousness is aligned, focused, and untroubled, action becomes efficient, precise, and inspired. The results that follow such action appear almost effortless, not because no work was done, but because the work was free from inner conflict. Chasing money creates a subtle message within the mind: I do not have enough. This belief, repeated through thought and emotion, conditions the subconscious to expect scarcity, and the subconscious, being a powerful creative force, projects this expectation outward into experience. Opportunities are overlooked, decisions become fear-based, and even success feels fragile. The harder one chases from this state, the further abundance seems to retreat. Consciousness, however, operates on a different plane. When the mind rests in confidence, clarity, and trust, action flows naturally, ideas emerge without strain, decisions feel timely. One begins to sense when to act and when to wait. This inner intelligence is far more valuable than endless effort because it aligns personal action with the larger movement of life. Money responds to this alignment because it is drawn to environments where order, clarity, and purpose exist. When a person cultivates inner richness, through discipline of thought, emotional balance, and a sense of meaning, outer richness finds a natural home. Money is not attracted to desperation, it is attracted to stability. It moves toward those who can hold it without fear, use it without obsession, and allow it to circulate without attachment. Such a consciousness creates a sense of safety, and energy always flows towards safety. This is why two people can perform the same work with very different results. One works with anxiety, constantly worrying about outcomes, measuring worth through income alone. The other works with attention, presence, and quiet confidence. Over time, the second person often experiences smoother progress, unexpected support, and steady growth. The difference is not talent or luck, but the inner state from which action is taken. Money follows consciousness, because consciousness shapes perception. A calm mind notices possibilities a fearful mind cannot see. A relaxed awareness allows intuition to guide choices, while a tense mind clings to familiar patterns even when they no longer serve. When consciousness expands, one's capacity to receive expands as well. This receiving is not passive, it is receptive, like fertile soil that does not beg for rain but is ready when it arrives. Chasing also narrows vision. It creates tunnel thinking, where the mind fixates on immediate gain and misses long-term harmony. Consciousness, when steady, sees connections between effort and timing, between service and reward, between patience and growth. Money responds to this wider vision because it thrives in systems that are sustainable and balanced. There is also a moral dimension hidden within consciousness. When actions arise from integrity, sincerity, and contribution, they carry a different quality of energy. Others sense this unconsciously. Trust forms, relationships deepen, and money often flows through these invisible channels of trust, long before it appears as numbers or currency. Consciousness infused with honesty and goodwill becomes a silent invitation for abundance to participate. The paradox is that when one stops chasing money, it often begins to move closer, not because desire has vanished, but because desperation has dissolved. Desire aligned with calm intention becomes aspiration, and aspiration carries creative power. In this state, effort is still present, but it is no longer heavy. It feels guided rather than forced, purposeful rather than frantic. As consciousness becomes anchored in sufficiency rather than lack, each action carries quiet authority. Work done from this place has a different impact on the world. It resonates, it attracts response, and money, being sensitive to resonance, follows this inner music, moving steadily toward the one who no longer runs after it, but stands rooted in clarity, trust, and inner abundance. Outer abundance is never an accident, it is the visible expression of an invisible order within. When the inner world is aligned, when thoughts, emotions, intentions and actions move in the same direction, life responds with cooperation. But when the inner state is divided, when desire pulls one way and fear pulls another, the outer world reflects that confusion through delay, struggle, and inconsistency. Alignment is not something imposed from outside, it is cultivated quietly within, and its effects ripple outward naturally. Inner alignment begins with clarity. When the mind knows what it is doing and why it is doing it, energy stops leaking. Many people work hard yet feel exhausted because their effort is scattered. Their thoughts argue with their actions, their emotions resist their goals, and their intentions shift with circumstances. This inner disorder creates friction, and friction interrupts flow. When alignment is present, even small actions carry strength because the whole being supports them. Emotional harmony plays a crucial role in this process. Suppressed resentment, chronic anxiety, or constant comparison create inner noise that disrupts natural rhythm. Abundance cannot comfortably settle in a mind that is always tense or self-critical. When emotions are acknowledged and steadied, the mind becomes a welcoming space. From this space, decisions arise with greater wisdom, and reactions soften into responses. Life seems less hostile, not because challenges vanish, but because inner balance remains intact. Intentions also shape alignment. When actions are driven purely by fear of survival or the need to prove worth, they carry a contracted energy. But when intention is rooted in growth, contribution, and self-respect, effort feels meaningful. This meaning subtly reorganizes priorities. Time is used more wisely, energy is conserved, one no longer pushes against life but moves with it, and this cooperation invites tangible support from the outer world. Alignment is further strengthened by consistency between values and behavior. When a person believes one thing but lives another, an internal split forms. This split weakens confidence and clouds judgment. But when actions reflect inner values, confidence stabilizes, decisions feel clean. There is less inner negotiation and more forward motion. The outer world responds to this coherence with smoother interactions, clearer opportunities, and fewer unnecessary obstacles. The body itself responds to inner alignment. Tension eases, breath deepens, and vitality increases. With vitality comes alertness, and with alertness comes awareness of opportunity. Many chances for growth and prosperity pass unnoticed simply because the mind is elsewhere, burdened by inner conflict. Alignment brings presence, and presence reveals paths that were always there but unseen. Outer abundance often arrives through channels that cannot be forced: timing, relationships, insight, and intuition. These channels open when the inner state is receptive. Receptivity is not passivity, it is readiness without strain. A person in alignment does not rush, yet does not hesitate. Action arises at the right moment because inner signals are clear. This timing makes effort efficient and outcomes more generous. Trust plays a silent but powerful role. When inner alignment is established, trust in life grows naturally. This trust reduces the impulse to control every detail. Control tightens the mind, trust relaxes it. In that relaxation, creativity awakens. Creative solutions appear where rigid thinking once blocked progress. Abundance favors creativity because creativity multiplies resources, rather than merely consuming them. Even setbacks take on a different meaning in an aligned state. Instead of being interpreted as personal failure, they are seen as feedback. This perspective prevents discouragement and preserves momentum. Outer abundance is sustained not by uninterrupted success, but by the ability to remain internally steady through change. Alignment provides that steadiness. As inner alignment deepens, life begins to feel less like a battle and more like a dialogue. Effort is still required, but it no longer feels heavy. Each step seems supported by an unseen order. Abundance, in its many forms, responds to this order, arranging circumstances, encounters, and resources in quiet cooperation with a mind that has learned to move as one harmonious whole. Wealth does not flow most freely toward those who demand it, but toward those who create value beyond themselves. Service is the unseen key that opens the channels through which abundance moves. When effort is directed solely toward personal gain, energy circulates in a closed loop, limited by the size of one's own needs and fears. But when intention expands to include the well-being, growth, or upliftment of others, that loop opens into a current, and within that current, wealth begins to travel naturally. Service shifts the focus of consciousness from what can I take to what can I contribute. This shift may seem subtle, yet it changes everything. The mind becomes outwardly attentive rather than inwardly anxious. Creativity awakens because service requires understanding real needs. In seeking to help, one is forced to listen, observe, and refine skills. These refined skills become valuable, and value is the true source of wealth. Where there is genuine service, trust is born. People instinctively sense when effort is sincere rather than manipulative. Trust creates relationships, and relationships are the primary channels through which opportunities move. Money rarely arrives in isolation. It comes through people, networks, and cooperation. Service strengthens these invisible bridges, allowing abundance to cross them with ease. Service also dissolves fear. When the mind is occupied with contribution, it has little space for worry about lack. This freedom from fear removes inner resistance, allowing action to become smooth and confident. Confidence, in turn, enhances effectiveness. Work done with confidence carries clarity, and clarity produces results that are consistent and sustainable. Wealth responds to sustainability because it seeks continuity, not chaos. There is a quiet dignity that arises when one serves with skill and humility. This dignity stabilizes self-worth. Instead of measuring value through income alone, worth is felt through usefulness. This inner stability prevents desperation, and desperation is one of the strongest barriers to abundance. A person who knows their usefulness does not chase recognition. Recognition finds them naturally. Service aligns personal growth with collective benefit. As one improves in order to serve better, personal capacity expands, knowledge deepens, discipline strengthens, and character refines. These inner developments are not separate from wealth, they are its foundation. Money flows most reliably toward those who can handle responsibility, complexity, and impact, all of which are cultivated through service. Even the act of giving time, attention, or care without immediate reward creates a subtle momentum. Life responds to momentum. When energy moves outward constructively, it tends to return amplified. This is not superstition but a practical law of circulation. Stagnant energy decays, moving energy multiplies. Service keeps energy moving. True service does not mean self-neglect or martyrdom. It means offering one's abilities in a way that is life-enhancing for both giver and receiver. When service is balanced, it generates respect rather than dependence. Respect elevates the quality of exchange, and high-quality exchange is where wealth naturally accumulates. In serving others, one often discovers unrecognized needs and unexplored possibilities. These discoveries lead to innovation. Innovation creates new value, and new value attracts resources. Many forms of prosperity arise not from seeking profit, but from solving problems with care and intelligence. Service sharpens this problem-solving capacity because it demands relevance and empathy. The greatest wealth creators throughout time, whether consciously or not, have understood this principle. They focused on improving lives, systems, or understanding. Money followed as a byproduct of usefulness. When service becomes the foundation, wealth becomes stable, because it is rooted in real contribution rather than temporary advantage. As service becomes a natural expression of one's work, effort feels lighter, and purpose becomes clearer. The mind relaxes into meaning, and in that relaxed clarity, opportunities appear more frequently. Wealth flows through these opportunities, responding to a life that has learned to give before it asks, and to serve before it seeks reward. Financial resistance is rarely created by lack of ability or opportunity. It is most often created by inner clinging. Attachment tightens the mind, narrows perception, and loads every action with anxiety about outcome. When money becomes the central object of desire, effort loses its natural rhythm and turns rigid. This rigidity blocks flow. Detachment, on the other hand, softens the inner atmosphere and allows energy to move freely, removing the invisible barriers that keep abundance at a distance. Detachment does not mean indifference or lack of ambition, it means freedom from fear regarding results. A detached mind acts fully, yet without the emotional weight of must succeed or must not fail. This freedom is powerful because it restores clarity. When the mind is no longer obsessed with securing a specific outcome, it becomes more responsive to reality. Decisions improve, timing sharpens, and opportunities that were previously overlooked come into view. Attachment creates constant internal pressure. Each action is followed by worry, comparison, and doubt. This pressure consumes mental energy and distorts judgment. One may work hard, yet feel exhausted without progress. Detachment releases this pressure. Effort remains, but tension dissolves. Action becomes precise rather than frantic, and this precision increases effectiveness. Money responds to effectiveness, not effort alone. When one is attached to money, even success feels unstable. There is fear of loss, fear of change, and fear of not having enough. These fears generate defensive behavior, hoarding, over-controlling, or avoiding risk altogether. Such behavior constricts growth. Detachment restores balance. It allows money to be used wisely, rather than guarded nervously. This wise use encourages circulation, and circulation invites return. Detachment also changes one's relationship with time. Attachment demands immediate results, creating impatience. Impatience leads to forced decisions and missed lessons. A detached mind respects timing. It understands that growth unfolds in stages. This patience allows long-term strategies to mature. Wealth that grows patiently tends to be stable, because it is built on understanding rather than urgency. There is a subtle confidence that arises with detachment. When identity is no longer tied to financial outcomes, self-worth stabilizes. This stability influences how others respond. Negotiations become cleaner, communication more direct, and trust easier to establish. Money flows more easily through environments where interactions are calm and grounded. Detachment removes the fear of loss, and with it, fear of experimentation. Many opportunities require trying, adjusting, and sometimes failing. Attachment magnifies the pain of failure, causing hesitation. Detachment treats failure as information rather than judgment. This perspective encourages learning and adaptation, both of which are essential for sustainable prosperity. A detached mind is also more creative. Creativity cannot function under pressure, it requires space. When the mind loosens its grip on outcomes, ideas arise naturally. These ideas often lead to new methods, products, or solutions that generate value. Value attracts resources. In this way, detachment indirectly fuels wealth by freeing creative intelligence. Resistance is created when desire and fear collide. One part of the mind wants abundance, another fears its absence or loss. Detachment resolves this inner conflict. Desire remains as intention, but fear dissolves. With conflict gone, energy flows in one direction. This unified movement has momentum, and momentum draws results. Detachment also deepens trust in life. This trust reduces the impulse to manipulate every circumstance. When manipulation ends, cooperation begins. Life responds to cooperation with support. Opportunities align, help appears, and pathways open with less struggle. Money, sensitive to ease and order, moves toward this state naturally. As detachment becomes habitual, the inner environment remains open regardless of external fluctuation. Success does not inflate the ego, and difficulty does not collapse confidence. This emotional steadiness creates a reliable foundation for growth. Wealth prefers reliability because it seeks continuity. In the absence of clinging, resistance fades, and the natural movement of abundance resumes, flowing through a mind that no longer blocks it with fear or fixation. Gratitude is not merely a polite emotion or a moral virtue, it is a powerful inner posture that changes the way effort is experienced and expressed. When gratitude is present, work no longer feels like a burden imposed by necessity, but like a natural movement of participation in life. The same task, performed with and without gratitude, produces entirely different inner states. One drains energy, the other renews it. This inner difference is what transforms effort into something that feels light, smooth, and almost effortless. Without gratitude, effort is often a company. D. By resentment or impatience. The mind focuses on what is missing, on what should already have been achieved, or on how much more must still be done. This constant measuring creates mental friction. Friction tires the mind before the body is even exhausted. Gratitude dissolves this friction by shifting attention from lack to sufficiency. When the mind recognizes what is already present, it relaxes, and in that relaxation, energy flows freely. Gratitude aligns the mind with the present moment. Many people struggle not because their work is too demanding, but because their attention is divided. One part of the mind is working, while another is worrying about outcomes or comparing progress with others. Gratitude gathers attention into the now. It grounds awareness in what is being done rather than what is being hoped for or feared. This presence sharpens focus, and focused effort naturally feels easier. There is also a subtle emotional strength that arises from gratitude. When one feels thankful, even for small progress or simple opportunities, motivation becomes intrinsic. Action is no longer driven solely by external reward or pressure. It is fueled by appreciation. This inner fuel burns steadily and cleanly, unlike anxiety-driven motivation, which burns hot and fast, leaving exhaustion behind. Gratitude changes perception. Challenges are no longer seen purely as obstacles, but as teachers. Effort applied toward growth feels meaningful when difficulties are understood as part of learning rather than signs of failure. This meaning lightens the psychological weight of work. One continues forward not out of force, but out of understanding. Understanding reduces resistance. Reduced resistance makes movement smooth. When gratitude becomes a habit, it also affects how one relates to others. Appreciation expressed toward people creates cooperation instead of conflict. Cooperation reduces unnecessary struggle. Tasks are shared, support appears, and progress accelerates. Many forms of effort feel heavy, simply because they are carried alone. Gratitude invites connection, and connection distributes effort across relationships. Gratitude also strengthens patience. Impatience is one of the main causes of strain. When results do not appear quickly, the mind tightens and effort becomes stressful. Gratitude counters impatience by honoring each step of the process. When progress is appreciated, no step feels wasted. This sense of continuity makes long journeys feel shorter and demanding projects feel manageable. The body responds to gratitude as well. Tension eases, breathing deepens, and energy circulates more efficiently. Physical ease contributes directly to mental ease. When the body is not resisting, action feels fluid. Tasks are completed with less effort simply because there is less internal opposition. Gratitude also neutralizes comparison. When the mind compares, it burdens effort with insecurity or pride. Both distort motivation. Gratitude brings attention back to one's own path and progress. This self-contained focus removes the pressure to prove or compete, allowing work to unfold at its own natural pace. As gratitude deepens, trust in life quietly grows. This trust reduces the need to control every detail. Control demands constant vigilance, which is exhausting. Trust allows delegation to time, process, and natural order. Effort becomes a collaboration rather than a struggle. In this collaboration, results often appear with surprising ease. When effort is infused with gratitude, it loses its harsh edges. Work continues, discipline remains, and commitment stays strong, yet there is an underlying sense of flow. Each action feels supported rather than resisted. In this state, what once felt heavy begins to feel simple, and what once required force begins to move with quiet grace.